The Ryukyu Islands sit far south of mainland Japan, surrounded by dark ocean and battered every year by typhoons. And among them, one island has earned a reputation that still unsettles the people sent there: Okinawa. For decades after World War II, thousands of American service members and their families were stationed there. Some fell completely in love with the island. The food, the people, the culture, the slower pace of life. Others counted the days until they could leave. But almost everyone who spent enough time there heard the stories. Stories about shadows in abandoned barracks, voices in empty hallways, figures standing at the edge of the jungle late at night. And one story, more than any other, kept coming up again and again: the little girl on the ramp.
If you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe for more stories from Japan you've probably never heard.
Tonight's stories all come from Marines who were stationed at Marine Corps Base at Camp Schwab, a base tucked into the northern part of Okinawa, surrounded by thick jungle and the scars of one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. One Marine explained that everybody eventually heard the rumor. Back in the 70s or 80s, according to the story, a young Okinawan girl was accidentally struck and killed by a military transport vehicle near the vehicle ramp. And ever since then, people say she's still there. In 2014, a staff sergeant was checking the motor pool late one rainy night with the duty driver. They pulled up to the locked gate, got out, and started fumbling through a ring of keys trying to find the right one. That's when he looked up. About 30 feet away, standing between rows of armored vehicles, was a little Japanese girl. She wasn't moving, just staring at them. The staff sergeant froze. The driver saw her too. Then the girl slowly turned, walked between the vehicles, passed straight through the fence line, and disappeared into the jungle beyond the ramp. The two Marines didn't stick around to investigate. They jumped back into the truck and drove straight out of there. A couple years later, another group of Marines were working late in one of the maintenance bays during a storm. Rain hammered against the metal roof while they repaired a track vehicle. One of them glanced outside, and there she was again. Same girl, same ragged clothing, standing silently beside the rows of vehicles. Every Marine in the bay stopped working. Nobody spoke. The girl turned, walked through the fence, and vanished into the darkness of the jungle. Every single one of them left immediately. The strange thing is, stories like this aren't rare on Okinawa. Online forums are filled with Marines, sailors, and airmen sharing nearly identical experiences. Some talk about shadow figures in the barracks. Others describe hearing old radio transmissions late at night during field exercises. Voices that sounded like they were coming from another era entirely. One Marine remembered sitting duty in the barracks around 2 a.m. when his friend suddenly froze in the doorway. At the far end of the hallway stood a little girl wearing old, tattered clothes. The Marine called out to her. The moment he did, she ran. They sprinted after her, burst through the fire exit door, and found absolutely nobody outside. No footsteps, no movement, nothing. Just humid Okinawan air and the sound of insects in the dark. Another Marine described something even stranger. Most of his unit had deployed out temporarily, leaving only a handful of men alone inside the nearly empty barracks. That's when things started happening. Dryer doors would open by themselves. Footsteps echoed down empty hallways. One night, while grabbing his laundry, he felt a hand slowly brush across his shaved head. Later that same night, another Marine burst into his room, terrified after waking from a nightmare about a woman dressed entirely in white, grabbing him and screaming for him to follow her. At the exact moment he pushed her away in the dream, a heavy metal ceiling vent crashed onto the floor beside his bed. The Marines checked the room themselves. The vent hadn't broken. It had been twisted loose from the ceiling. And then there were the sleep paralysis stories. Several Marines described waking up unable to move, while shadow-like figures stood inside their rooms, watching them from the darkness. One said he saw black smoke forming near his wall lockers while a horrible, rotting smell filled the room. Terrified, he started praying. The figure moved closer. When he finally snapped out of it, his roommate stared at him and asked, "Bro, since when do you speak Spanish?" The Marine didn't speak Spanish, but according to his roommate, while trapped in paralysis, he had been speaking in another language fluently. Some believe these encounters were tied to the island itself, because Okinawa carries a history soaked in tragedy. The Battle of Okinawa was one of the deadliest battles of World War II. Tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians died across the island in just a few brutal months. Entire families were caught between armies. Many Okinawan civilians were told by Japanese forces that American troops would torture them if captured alive. Some were handed grenades and ordered to kill themselves and their children rather than surrender. Cliffs across Okinawa became sites of mass suicides. Caves became tombs. Villages vanished overnight. Even today, locals still speak openly about spirits, ancestral energy, and places where the dead never truly left. And maybe that's why so many service members who arrive on Okinawa end up leaving with stories they can't explain. Because long after the war ended, some people believe parts of the island are still haunted by those who never made it home.